Hello, you're watching weekly highlights program on Azərbaycan Television with the major developments of the week. I am your host İlham Məmmədov. Now first let's take a brief look at some of the top stories of this week. President İlham presided over a meeting dedicated to the state program for the improvement of water supply, wastewater and stormwater systems in Baku and the Abşeron Peninsula for 2026-2035. On January 13th, President İlham visited Tərtər and Ağdərə districts. On January 12th, President İlham presided over a meeting dedicated to the state program for the improvement of water supply, wastewater and stormwater systems in Baku and the Abşeron Peninsula for 2026-2035. The head of state delivered a speech at the meeting.
Bugün biz Bakı şəhəri və Abşeron yarımadasının su problemi.
Touching on the issues related to resolving the water problems of Baku and the Abşeron Peninsula, the head of state said this is an issue that holds a special place among the infrastructure projects implemented. Dwelling on large-scale infrastructure projects implemented in our country in recent years, both in Baku and in all regions, President İlham added that almost all of the key infrastructure problems have been resolved. Several regional development programs have been adopted over the past 20 years. Each program covered a 5-year period, and all of the programs have been successfully implemented. As a result, we have resolved the main infrastructure problems. First and foremost, electricity supply now covers the entire country. Our energy generation capacity exceeds our needs. We are even exporting electricity. At the same time, substations, transmission lines, and the distribution network, all these elements have been integrated into a single system. Most of the shortcomings in this area have been eliminated. Today, we are thinking not only about our own energy needs. We can consider that this issue has been resolved, but also about export routes. And not just thinking, we are creating them. In a few years, Azerbaijan will be exporting electricity to world markets at the same level as it is currently exporting oil and gas and contributing to the energy security of a number of countries, underlined the head of state, saying today 96% of the population is supplied with natural gas. This is an issue that occupies a special place among the infrastructure projects carried out over the past 20 years. The head of state noted that today more than 10 countries in the world are purchasing Azerbaijani natural gas and enhancing their energy security. Touching on the drinking water and irrigation projects, the head of state said that this issue had always been in the spotlight as well. The people of Azerbaijan remember quite well that this was one of the biggest concerns in the past. These issues have also gradually been resolved. Today, drinking water and sewage projects have been implemented in most of our cities, and this process is still ongoing. Noting that 4 large reservoirs were built over the past 20 years with a total capacity of more than 500 million cubic meters, specifically mentioning among them the Tahtakörpü and Şamkirçay reservoirs, the head of state added that if these reservoirs had not been built, the water supply of Baku and the western region could be facing major problems today. The Tahtakörpü reservoir allowed us to collect the waters of the Samur River into the Ceyranbatan reservoir and stockpile a reserve there. This also included a complete overhaul of the Ceyranbatan reservoir. A cutting-edge complex of treatment facilities has been built. Stressing that unfortunately the drinking water problems of Baku and the Abşeron Peninsula have been serious for many years, some work has been done in this direction. However, the time has come to adopt a large-scale and comprehensive state program. The head of state said this program will cover the city of Baku, its settlements, the city of Sumgayit, and Abşeron district. The preparation process began some time ago, and the program is now almost ready. As mentioned, the primary goal of this program is to provide Baku and the Abşeron Peninsula with sustainable drinking water. The program must be implemented by 2035, which in itself shows how large-scale it is, as time is needed to implement it in full. Financial sources for its implementation have been identified. It will be financed from 2 sources, the state budget and foreign loans. The reforms carried out in this sector in recent years have significantly reduced our foreign debt. Today, Azerbaijan is one of the world's leading countries in terms of the ratio of foreign debt to GDP, which stands at just over 6%. This allows us to apply for additional foreign loans, especially considering that leading international financial institutions are approaching us themselves. We could also implement this program using domestic funds. However, the country faces many challenges, including the restoration of Qarabağ and East Zengezur, strengthening military capacity, and implementing other projects and social initiatives. As a result of the program's implementation, around 30 new reservoirs will be built. As a result, the water supply of Baku, Sumgayit, Absheron district, and 64 settlements will be significantly improved. More than 200 kilometers of main canals and the same length of distribution networks will be built and reconstructed. One of the main problems we face today is water loss. If losses were at a low level, even the water reserves available to us could be sufficient. However, we must plan and calculate for the future. After all, the population is growing, our industry is growing, and of course, so is demand. Therefore, a sharp reduction in losses is one of the top priorities. Today, losses in this area account for approximately 40–45%. As mentioned, as a result of the implementation of the program, this figure should be sharply reduced. Currently, only 50% of the population has access to sewage services. As a result of the implementation of the program, this figure should increase to 95%. As soon as heavy rains fall, urban transport becomes paralyzed and very serious problems arise. This is not only the case in Baku or Azerbaijan, but also everywhere in the world. Floods have become commonplace even in the cities of the most developed countries. No city infrastructure can handle several days of heavy and incessant rain. However, despite this, we still have quite a few weaknesses in this area. Therefore, a new collector network will be built on 30 streets of Baku for rainwater management, which will be of great benefit, concluded the head of state. Subsequently, Deputy Prime Minister Shahin Mustafayev and Chairman of the Azerbaijan State Water Resources Agency, Zaur Mikhailov, informed President İlham Aliyev about the progress achieved so far and the upcoming measures planned under the program.
On January 13th, President İlham Aliyev visited Terter and Ağdara districts.
President İlham Aliyev attended the opening of the Terter electromechanical plant following its reconstruction on January 13th. The head of state first laid flowers at the bust of the national leader Heydar Aliyev, erected in the plant's courtyard. Minister of Defense Industry Vügar Mustafayev briefed the President on the facilities established at the plant. The plant was established in 1976 as the Terter branch of the Lianozova electromechanical plant. It began operations in April 1977, producing electrotechnical industry products and special-purpose items. In its early years, the plant manufactured tachometer and speedometer products for motorboats. National leader Heydar Aliyev, who laid the foundation of the plant, attended its official opening ceremony in 1978. Under an order signed by President İlham Aliyev in 2005, the Ministry of Defense Industry was established and the Terter electromechanical plant was placed under its subordination. A range of modern high-precision technological equipment acquired from advanced countries has been installed at the facility where various types of military-purpose products will be manufactured. The design of technological lines, establishment of production flows, and adaptation to serial production were carried out by local specialists of Azersilah Defense Industry Holding Closed Joint Stock Company. Currently, production processes are being aligned with national military technical standards and international quality standards. For this purpose, a quality control laboratory has been established. President İlham Əliyev visited the village of Çapar in the Ağdərə district to review the reconstruction and development works undertaken there. Elçin Yusupov, special representative of the President in the city of Xankəndi and the Ağdərə and Xocalı districts, provided the head of state with a detailed briefing on the progress of reconstruction in the village. Çapar village is situated in the İmarat Garvand Administrative Territorial Unit of Ağdərə district on the southeastern slopes of the Qarabağ mountain range. It is home to historical fortress and temple architectural monuments. The village was liberated from occupation following the anti-terror operation carried out by the Azərbaycan Armed Forces in 2023. Currently, there are 104 private houses in Çapar. Of these, 41 were deemed beyond repair, while 63 were found partially usable. To date, 40 houses have been fully commissioned, with an additional 23 scheduled for restoration by the end of the year. In the initial phase of the Great Return program, 26 families have already resettled in the village. Following the briefing, President İlham Əliyev visited the family of Kemal Dadaşova, one of the families who have relocated to the village, and inquired about their living conditions. The head of state attended the opening of the Gozlu Körpü hydroelectric power plant located in the village of Gozlu Körpü in the Ağdərə district. Chairman of the board of Azərenerji Open Joint Stock Company, Baba Razayev, briefed the head of state on the station as well as on the status of hydropower plants in Qarabağ and East Zengezur and the existing and prospective hydropower potential of the Tartarçay river chain. It was reported that in the liberated territory, 38 hydropower plants with a total capacity of 307 megawatt produce 750 million kilowatt hours of green energy in 2025. This resulted in savings of 160 million cubic meters of natural gas and prevented the emission of 280,000 tons of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. The hydropower potential of the Tartarçay River has been determined to include 30 hydropower stations. Currently, 22 hydropower stations are operated by Azərenerji Open Joint Stock Company. Construction of 5 hydropower stations is underway and 3 hydropower stations are planned. It should be noted that the Tartarçay River is entirely within the territory of Azerbaijan. In accordance with President İlham Əliyev's instruction to transform Qarabağ and East Zengezur into a green energy zone, the Gozlu Körpü hydroelectric power plant, built on the Tartarçay, the largest water artery of the region, has a capacity of 14.7 megawatts. Despite the challenging terrain, harsh climate conditions and complex logistics, the project was successfully completed in a short period. A modern headwater intake structure has been constructed at an altitude of 955 meters above the sea level. A 13-kilometer-long diversion pipeline has been laid through mountainous terrain to transfer water from the structure to the station. For the first time in Azerbaijan, modern energy production equipment capable of operating at 25% productivity during low water periods and 100% productivity during high water periods has been installed. An open switchgear was built to connect the station to the national energy system, and an optical cable line was laid to integrate the station into the digital control system. On average, the station is expected to produce 43 million kilowatt hours of electricity annually, saving 9.5 million cubic meters of natural gas and preventing 18,000 tons of carbon dioxide emissions. President of the Republic of Azerbaijan İlham Əliyev visited Heyvali village in the Ağdərə district and familiarized himself with the reconstruction and development work carried out there on January 13th. The head of state was briefed on the landscaping activities and planned infrastructure projects in the village. Heyvali is located within its own administrative territorial district in the Ağdərə region at the foothills of the Qarabağ mountain range. Prior to the occupation, the local population was primarily engaged in grain farming, tobacco cultivation, and animal husbandry. The village also housed social facilities such as a school, a community club, and a post office. Heyvali was liberated from occupation following the anti-terror operations conducted in 2023. Out of 126 private houses in Heyvali, 45 have already been fully restored and are ready for occupancy. The restoration of an additional 50 houses is planned throughout the year. All necessary conditions have been established for the settlement of the 19 families who have already returned to their native land. Later, President İlham Əliyev visited the family of local resident Sarvan Abbasov and familiarized himself with the living conditions created in their new home. President İlham Əliyev inspected the Damerli ore processing complex located in the village of Canyataq in the Ağdağ district on January 13th. Minister of Economy Mikhail Jabbarov and President and Chief Executive Officer of Azərbaycan International Mining Company Limited, Reza Vazin, briefed the head of state on the complex. The complex includes a copper flotation plant, a well tailing storage facility, an electrical substation and other infrastructure, covering a total area of 929 hectares designated for mining and production. The complex has been reconstructed using Turkish and German technologies. Private investments amounting to 15.3 million manats were directed to the reconstruction and restoration works. Damerli is the first mining industry project launched in Azerbaijan's liberated territories. The copper flotation plant will process ore extracted from the Damerli deposit to produce the final product, copper concentrate. The plant's annual processing capacity is 5.6 million tons of ore. The Damerli copper deposit, which had been under Armenians' occupation since 1993, was illegally exploited for approximately 10 years, starting from May 13, 2013. During that period, out of the estimated 311,000 tons of extractable copper reserves, 218,000 tons, or 70%, were illegally extracted. The initial exploitation period of the remaining reserves is planned for 2025-2030. During this period, the export of 85,000 tons of copper metal in concentrate form to the People's Republic of China, valued at 1.6 billion manats, is envisaged. At the same time, an increase in copper reserves at the deposit is forecasted in the coming years. According to preliminary geological exploration data, approximately 470,000 tons of additional copper reserves are estimated to be available. The extractable volume of these reserves will be clarified following a 4-year geological exploration and research program. At the initial stage, the complex has created permanent employment for 980 people, including 260 former internally displaced persons, among them citizens returning to the liberated territories. In the coming years, the number of permanent jobs is expected to increase to 1,250, with the majority filled by representatives of local communities. Mining operations at the deposit are carried out by the operating company Azərbaycan International Mining Company Limited under an agreement signed in 2024 between Azergold Closed Joint Stock Company and the US-based company RV Investment Group Services on the exploration, development and production sharing of several ore deposits in Azerbaijan. In accordance with the law approved by President İlham Əliyev in 2024, the authority to represent the state under the production sharing agreement has been delegated to Azergold Closed Joint Stock Company. Comprehensive environmental protection measures have been implemented within the framework of the project. A baseline assessment and environmental monitoring were conducted, and an environmental and social impact assessment document was prepared based on the findings. Throughout the project period, measures including monitoring, laboratory analysis, afforestation works, and water recycling systems are being applied to reduce dust and noise emissions and to protect land and water resources. Upon completion of operations, technical and biological reclamation of the affected areas will also be ensured. President İlham Əliyev pressed the symbolic button to initiate ore blasting. President Ilham Aliyev reviewed the reconstruction and development work carried out in the village of Childaran in the Agdara district on January 13th. The head of state was briefed on the projects currently being implemented in the village. Childaran is situated in its namesake administrative territorial district within the Agdara district in a foothill area. Prior to the occupation, the local population was primarily engaged in animal husbandry and crop production. The village previously featured a school, a house of culture, a library, and a medical station. The area is rich in historical heritage, housing the 12th century Albanian temple and the 13th century Red Temple architectural monuments. The occupation of the village ended following the anti-terror operations conducted by the Azerbaijani armed forces in September 2023. There are 177 private houses in the village, of which 69 were deemed unusable and 106 were partially usable. To date, 28 houses have been made ready for occupancy, and the restoration of an additional 30 houses is planned for this year. Currently, an initial group of 13 families has returned to the village. Following the inspection, President Ilham Aliyev visited the home of Verdi Abdullayev, who recently resettled in the village with his family. President Ilham Aliyev reviewed the reconstruction works in the Ashaghi Orataq village of Agdara district on January 13th. Ashaghi Orataq is located in the eponymous administrative territorial district of Agdara in a foothill area. Before the occupation, the village population was primarily engaged in viticulture, animal husbandry, grain farming, and tobacco cultivation. The village also had a school, a club, a library, and a medical point. Ashaghi Orataq was liberated from occupation as a result of the anti-terror operation conducted by the Azerbaijani armed forces in 2023. The village has a total of 308 individual houses, of which 148 were unfit for use and 160 were partially usable. Currently, 100 houses have been restored and are ready for habitation. Within the year, an additional 60 houses are planned for major repair and restoration. So far, 31 families totaling 119 people have returned to the village. The head of state also visited the family of Anar Rustamov, who recently returned to the village, and familiarized himself with the conditions in their newly restored house. The head of state also met with residents of Ashaghi Orataq, Childaran, Heyvali, and Chapar villages in the Ashaghi Orataq village of the Agdara district on January 13th. On January 13th, President Ilham Aliyev examined the master plan for the city of Agdara. Anar Guliyev, chairman of the State Committee on Urban Planning and Architecture, briefed the head of state on the master plan. According to the plan, the city's residential area will be expanded from 444 hectares to 522 hectares. The city's population is projected to reach 14,000 people over a 20-year perspective period. The conceptual scheme of the master plan includes a city center, individual and low-density residential areas, as well as multifunctional and public business zones. Additionally, plans are in place to establish a terrace park, a riverside boulevard, and agritourism, industrial and logistics zones. Alongside the master plan, detailed solutions have been developed for the initial stage of Agdara's reconstruction, which envisages a total housing fund of 420,000 square meters and the construction of an 80-bed hospital, 5 schools with a capacity of 2,520 students, 5 kindergartens for 640 children, and a vocational school. In the first phase, a 104-hectare city center will be developed, making it possible for 3,590 people to reside in the city by 2030, where the road and street network will span 46.8 kilometers and bicycle lanes will reach 10 kilometers in length. Furthermore, within the framework of the project, architectural designs for both public and residential buildings have already been finalized. After reviewing the master plan, the head of state provided relevant instructions and directives. Following the review, residential buildings intended for the military personnel of the Ministry of Defense were commissioned in Ağdərə. Repair and restoration work has been carried out on a total of 3 buildings for the military personnel of the Ministry of Defense in Ağdərə. Of the 72 apartments in these 4- and 5-story buildings, 8 are 1-room, 36 are 2-room, 24 are 3-room and 4 are 4-room units. Every condition has been created here for the comfortable living and effective organization of leisure time for the servicemen and their families. The apartments are fully equipped with water, gas, electricity and internet, as well as furniture sets. Extensive landscaping has also been conducted around the buildings, with new greenery planted and dedicated corners created for the residents' relaxation. President of the Republic of Azerbaijan and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces Ilham Aliyev laid the foundation stone for the Special Operations Center in the Ağdərə district on January 13th. Minister of Defense Zakir Hasanov reported to the President and Commander-in-Chief. The head of state was informed that the primary objective of establishing this center is to ensure the specialized training of special forces units across diverse terrains, topographies and weather conditions. Additionally, the facility will host events including joint exercises and specialized courses based on international military cooperation agreements. It will be possible to conduct training and maneuvers with the participation of a large number of personnel across the center's extensive territory, which will feature training zones for small arms and large caliber weapons, unmanned aerial vehicles, including strike drones, various simulations, special operations, and driving and swimming preparation. The center will include a headquarters, barracks, a medical point, a club, educational and guest houses, an indoor sports complex, a simulation center, outdoor sports fields, a helipad, shooting ranges, and other necessary infrastructure. President Ilham Aliyev laid the foundation stone for the center.
That was all for the week. Thank you for watching us and stay tuned not to miss the next edition of our program.